Well, hey there, all of you great people of the world. How's your day going? It's just another day in crazy, chaotic 2020 here. And today I just had a few thoughts on my mind I wanted to share that just popped into my head. I don't have any notes or, pre-thought out idea of how I was going to talk about this, but just wanted to touch on a few things regarding natural cures and medicines and people's fear of, it's like this, somebody who's going to tell you this is going to cure you, but this is bad for you. And the next person you talk to is going to tell you the direct opposite. It's been that way for a long time. The human body, the things that we can actually consume and eat, the types of foods that we can digest, highly dependent on the individual. Things like lactose intolerance, which was unheard of, or gluten, way back in the day in Europe, when certain people developed a lactose tolerance and they were able to drink milk while people in Asia couldn't. They didn't develop that enzyme. But anyhow, each person is unique and each chemistry is unique, and we know that there are certain foods that are good and bad for us, right? But do we really? We hear about carcinogens in one food, then we find out that, oh, maybe a glass of wine is good for you. Oh no, it's all bad for you. And cannabis will kill you and make you crazy. Oh wait, it has some curative properties too. It really comes down to just common sense, but also a lot of research. You can't just know what to consume and what's good for you. I'm just touching briefly on the food issue. It's a huge one. I mean, fad foods, things that come and go, right? Goji berries and whatever's the next superfood, which most of it's just bullshit. It's not that it's bad for you, and a lot of it is good for you, but they become marketing gimmicks and have way far stated, the things that they state that they can do are just ridiculous. Even with CBD, as actually, I've got in my pocket right here these. I was just thinking of how grateful I am I made these months back. They were CBD and CBN, and THC capsules, basically made out of some older cannabis that I had. But I was like, I'd take a couple of those, and they do help me relax. But I would never say, oh, well, by taking this, it's an antidepressant, anxiolytic, it has all these properties, because for each person it's unique. And for some people it might help, for others it might make them more anxious, right? And there is always somebody trying to sell you a cure-all. And anyone who knows me on this channel knows that I've in the past I rarely tear apart people like individuals, but there are a few people that I've attacked because of their ridiculous products, like this guy David Sereda, who sells this $5,000 crystal wand that's supposed to heal you. And another guy named Tom Palladino, who sells this scalar energy transmission device where you send him a photograph and he claims that he puts the photograph in the machine and then he can heal you and of all your viruses, herpes, everything else, because of course he's going to use herpes as the main one, because herpes goes dormant, right? And anybody who has a basic grasp on, virology, science, regarding biology, that you cannot put your picture on a machine and claim to have a scalar energy wave. But anyway, I talked to the guy personally several times and emailed him asking how it worked. He eventually cut me off, which I never go into something saying this isn't true, okay? So when I go to dispel a myth, I do it going in there with the hopes that it would be true, okay? I fell into the new age bullshit. I never really went too deep into the health stuff and the new age things. I mean, sure, I love burning incense and all that. I do believe in essential oils, even though people will use that one as a total fraud. I would like to say, yes, the claims made for essential oils are generally bullshit. But you cannot sit and say they have no use therapeutically, even through the olfactory senses. These are the essences of plants. These are the oils, the essential oils of plants. These have been used for, whether it's cleaning or antiseptics. They have a lot of different uses, absolutely. But no, they're not a cure-all. They're not going to solve all of your problems. That's kind of how CBD is marketed. That's how these vitamins are marketed, nootropics, which I made my own line for a while and gave up on it, because even though I sourced and found the best quality stuff, I could not guarantee that it was as effective as I wanted it to be. because placebo effect makes things just chaos. I mean, it's really hard to figure out what's real and what's not with placebo effect. And I'm sure you all know what that is. If you believe it's real, right? And that's how we get ourselves into these messes. I was thinking about how in the past we didn't understand what viruses were or bacteria, and so we considered them to be demons. People were literally possessed, that it was created by the devil or something. Of course, today we just figure it's created by a government or somebody else. It always has to be somebody who's created something, because we can't comprehend nature. So we need to have some sort of a system to know what to believe and what not to believe. So a lot of people go to traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. Some people go to Ayurvedic medicine, which I have a big book on Ayurvedic medicine, including a lot of herbs that I sold on my site for a while, like mucuna pruriens, which is, mucuna actually contains naturally 5% or so l-dopa, and l-dopa is a precursor to dopamine, and it actually has a real effect on me. It's not something I would take all the time, but I guess the point I'm getting at is that the pharmagnosi, I can't pronounce that right here, can't remember. The knowledge about pharmaceuticals and herbs and plants is very blurry, because there are a lot of people making bullshit claims out there. And the same goes for any type of food, health product, anything. So it doesn't mean that these things don't work or that they don't have some benefits for some people the way they're claimed. I guess the point, if I'm going to make a point, I could sit here and talk about all the messed up products in the world all day long, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point is that a lot of you, just like me, have been out trying to figure out what's the healthiest way to live without overdoing it. Let's give you an example. A person might tell you, well, if you take this herbal supplement blend, then you'll feel a lot better, and say you do for a while. Then you find out that one of the ingredients was some heavy metal accumulating mushroom or plant that was grown in really poor conditions. And accumulator plants, basically, they will take up metals and toxins and hold them within them. So you have to be really cautious about where your mushrooms and your plants are grown and know where to source. So when I was making my blend, I wanted to know where everything came from. A lot of the stuff that came from China was grown in less than ideal conditions. It's not just China's fault. India does the same thing, and a lot of chemical fertilizers and whatnot around the world, which have, I won't go into detail on that, but it's important to know where stuff's coming from, and that's hard enough. And then you have to wonder if it actually does anything. So what I would like to do before I ramble on too long is to go off on a couple things that I think are actually useful. There's a variety of herbs and herb books that you can get. If you're just talking about, say, the immune system, and you buy some immune booster, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But there's scientific literature to show that in vitro, at least, I believe, some of these cells can be affected by positively. It can reinforce your immune system with some of these compounds that are found in, say, mushrooms, like triterpenes, beta-glucans. There are several different compounds within natural medicines and natural plants that go back, say, hundreds, if not 1,000 or more years. So if you can trace that back, there was a period where we kind of laughed off traditional medicine as well. Hey, now we have science and pharma. What happened was there was a turn that was taken by a lot of people where they realized that pharma had made so many faulty products, and they had screwed us over for so long, that people started assuming that any pharmaceutical was somehow poison or bad for us, and that's just not the case. Many heart medication, for example, made from digitalis, which is found in the foxglove plant. You can see growing on the side of the road. And there you have a flower that could be heart medication. But if you take too much, you might get arrhythmia. You might actually kill yourself. So it's all about the dose, and that's one of the key aspects I want to point out about herbs and plants. Any medicine you're taking, it's all about the frickin' dose. I've seen people selling these mushroom blends. I was disgusted. I wanted to make a video about this the other day. I was researching to make one about crappy products like mushroom blends. I never ended up making it, but I came across this Dr. Axe, A-X-E. And I know, I didn't really know shit about the guy. I don't pay attention to these mainstream fake-ass doctors, but he was pushing this bottle of this immune booster, for like $80 for a month's supply. It was basically like ridiculous price, like $1 a pill or something. I looked at the ingredients. All it was a multivitamin, and then at the bottom it had 300 milligrams of a mushroom blend with a few other things. And I sat here thinking, when I take my mushroom capsules, I take a full-blown extract, a very strong, like 10 times extract, in 2 500 milligram capsules. I take at least 2 or 3 of them, 1,500 milligrams of the stuff. So my dose I take is 5 times more, and it's not mushrooms, it's actual extracts, because mushrooms in their natural form, if somebody's selling you mushroom blends and capsules, or otherwise, to be taken that way, they don't know what the hell they're doing, because the cell walls of mushrooms are made of chitin. That's chitin. It's the same stuff that makes up the shells of insects. This chitin is hard to break down, and the cell walls won't break down in your intestines, and you basically crap out what you consume. You don't absorb any active constituents from the mushrooms. So that's a long-winded way of saying understand the different methods of taking things, the dosages you need, if you're trying to cure or mitigate some particular ailment or cold or whatever it might be. I've researched these things for years, and as a lot of you know, I have an herb website. I've been trying to move on because I don't like the chaos surrounding kratom and trying to deal with the business on it. It's just a hassle. But I would still love to move into herbal blends and continue to make the ones like I did before. And I'm kind of stupid when it comes to business, I'll be honest. I had a few capsule blends that I made with like ginger and turmeric that people loved and wanted and requested, and I actually just stopped making them because sourcing good material became hard. I'm like, I can't find this or this, and I refused to compromise and put something else in there. And not to toot my own horn there, I'm just saying a lot of people don't, and I've learned that people don't really care about their product, and it makes it really hard to know what you're getting from who. So if you're buying raw materials, that's one thing. You can see them, taste them. You can look at the test results if they have them. I look at the data sheet for everything, the test sheets for all the mushrooms I buy. But it doesn't mean that they can't falsify that or fake it, or that could have been a past batch. You just don't know. It's like going to buy weed at the weed store. It'll say, oh, it's 25% on the card, but you find out that it's only like 15% on that batch or something on the bag, Only legal states would understand that one. But knowing what you're buying is very difficult, and I'm just going to put this kind of simply to finish this off. There is no cure-all. There are no magic bullets, no magic protectors against getting sick or becoming depressed or being anxious. If you feel anxious or you feel depressed once in a while, that's a natural reaction to life, especially right now. And right now is a time when a lot of people are very depressed, and they're taking more and more, probably painkillers, alcohol, smoking more pot. I know I've been consuming more things, but still trying to keep my head on straight. I'm not a person who likes to be out of my mind. I like to be coherent, because you got to deal with life as it comes, So in that sense, people are desperate not just to find ways out of their mental state, but ways out of their physical ailments. And that's where I think that natural medicines and these cures become total bullshit. These products that you claim to put on and wear as these pendants that will protect you from EMF radiation, Oh, now it's just 5G shield protectors, I remember years ago, I won't embarrass anyone, somebody I know got sucked into this kind of pyramid scheme thing, and they were going to start selling these stickers. There were these little stickers, it was about 10 years ago. Little round stickers that you put on the back of your cell phone. And these stickers were supposed to block harmful radiation, right? Frequencies that are emitted and received by the phone. My first thought was, well, if you stop emitting the signals from the phone, you can't get a call, or you can't make a call, right? It made absolutely no sense to me, and I eventually, of course, these scams come to light over time, but people are so desperate to protect themselves against things that they'll do whatever they can. And you can't blame people for wanting to be safe, for wanting to protect their family and their health, but there are people who latch onto this and create these websites and YouTube channels, like these websites like naturalnews.com. They're horrible. Natural News is one of the most uncredible websites I've ever heard. And often when somebody makes a claim about vaccines or about this or about that, the articles always link back to Natural News, which I believe are run by like a husband and wife that used to be friends with Alex Jones, and it was kind of an offshoot. They used to do a little thing with him. I don't recall the details, but, you know, I'm not here to diss them or anyone else. I'm here to say the facts are difficult to obtain and they take many sources. And it's very easy for people to generalize and say, you know, all of these foods are bad and all of these foods are good, and this is a great herb or this is a bad herb. Neglecting to talk about dosages, actual amounts, body chemistry, and differences. And many of these websites, of course, at the bottom are willing to sell you the exact product that they're talking about, right? So it becomes a marketing ploy too, and it's hard to get to the bottom of anything. It comes down to who do you trust, but I guess I could think of this example I've always thought of. People who sell Herbalife products. You'll often see this really beat up car driving down the street, and no offense to anyone out there who might be selling these products or have sold them. It's kind of like Amway in a way, you know. You see these crappy beat up car driving down with an Herbalife sticker, huge like plaque on the back almost, like call me about Herbalife, you know, you make your dreams come true and you could make all this money, and you're thinking, well, where's yours? You know, a lot of these companies are just out to sell whatever they can. Herbalife products are total shit. I'm just going to say it right outright. They are crap products. But beyond that, it wasn't about the product. It's about the marketing, and that's really the point I wanted to make. If you're looking to buy a product that's going to help you with anything, whether it be insomnia, anxiety, depression, you know, blood pressure, any type of herb or natural remedy, scour the website or wherever you're reading about it. Make sure that there are no links to affiliate products on there that are just trying to tell you things that you want to learn about because you want to hear them, right? This is it's a virus in itself. It's a scourge out there of just total misinformation. I was going to talk about it later. They call it the the room of mirrors or something, where it's like if somebody says, well, they're lying to you, and then you go and they're like, no, they're lying to you, and you say, well, this is true. You've got to be able to develop enough of a sense of what works for you. Follow your body. I'm going to finish off with veganism, because somebody might bring that up, whether meat is healthy or unhealthy. I'm not going to get into that debate. I do believe that eating moderate amounts of meat is not unhealthy. I'll put it that way. And I do. Could I live without meat? Probably. Sure, of course. But why would I want to? When I eat meat, I know how it makes me feel. In fact, I learned this when I was younger, and, you know, I'd eat various foods, but when I ate a good steak, I felt motivated and energized the whole next day. And I started thinking, you know, I grew up thinking that you eat a meal and you burn it off and you eat another meal. It's not the way the body works. You store a lot of these enzymes and a lot of these amino acids, which your body actually takes the proteins apart and puts them back to the aminos back together into proteins that your body needs. And so meat is a phenomenal source of a lot of different things, like B6 and B12. Don't need to get into the details because we all know. But there's always going to be one vegan who's going to say, you should not eat meat because of A or B. And on principle, that's totally different than on health issues. But the reason I bring this up is because a lot of vegans, instead of admitting that it's a principle issue about killing animals, which I respect, it becomes an issue of science, and they dig and dig and dig to show you how bad meat is for you. And look at these people dying from meat, right? It's selective confirmation bias, which everyone uses. But if people can find a story to tell you that meat is bad when we've been eating it forever, debatably, right? If people can find information to say that you should never eat meat, then people can find information to say you should never do anything. It's the same reason that Reefer Madness came out in the 40s, 30s, 40s and said, hey, if you smoke pot one time, you'll go insane and kill your family and you'll be a crazy reefer, nutcase. Or if you take LSD one time, you're insane and you'll jump out of a window or off of a bridge or kill someone. I learned both of those weren't true after taking them dozens of times, but LSD kind of opened my mind to a lot of these things, to bring that up. But also mushrooms, psilocybin. I've talked about mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, that's one thing. But I think it was the psychedelics that really helped me to open up my mind to understand that things are never as they seem, and you always have to remain in the middle. If somebody's making a bold claim one side and somebody's making a bold claim on the other side, you really have to be careful not to get stuck to one side or the other. That's how we get partisan politics, right? So that's about all I got. Turned into a longer ramble than I intended, but when I get going, boy, I just don't shut up, do I? I have a lot to talk about when it comes to plants and health and frauds that, but let me just tell you, if you have any particular products that you're curious about, let me know and maybe I'll review it or look into it. I find that most of the big claims that claim that they're being silenced, that, well, they just don't want you to know about this truth. It's the same with the water burning engines I heard about back in the 90s. I'm like, well, it'd be nice if it were true, and maybe it is true. But how does this work? Is it possible? Can we do the electrolysis or whatever process it might be? Is it conducive to a large scale? And sure, a lot of the times it turns out that things are pushed down, including natural cures. Believe me, as a kratom vendor, I went through that shit in 2016 where we had to deal with the FDA and the DEA basically threatening to shut down kratom because they claimed it was dangerous or unknown, but it was competing with their opioid trade. I mean, that was a pretty obvious one. There were lobbyists who wanted kratom taken down. So it wasn't an issue of health, it was an issue of suppression. And this has been done a lot of times, so I'm not denying that there are conspiracies. That adds to the frickin' confusion. So we have people trying to sell you things on one side, people selling you something on the other side, then people in the middle who are financed by either side, who are supposed to be your government or your officials, like the FDA. And then we have the USDA and all these other companies who say, oh yeah, sure, that's organic enough. You can't trust anybody. You really can't. So what can you do? Take as raw to earth foods and materials as you possibly can, or mushrooms, or avoid chemicals and refined things. If you're looking for an antidepressant or anything like that, try to find a natural remedy first. Not that nature is always better, but that my situation, I've found that pharmaceuticals tend to be far more powerful in many instances, and that's not always a good thing. So I kratom saved my ass, in many ways. But that's all I got for today. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Definitely make another one because I got more to talk about when it comes to herbs and shit. So, peace. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all my subscribers. Thank you to my new patrons. Thank you to Colin, my new patron. And I need to start editing these so I can put in a list of my peeps because I really appreciate it, all of you. And have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.